welcome to Hot Break Kitchen. We're here in our training space in Chelsea Market, and as we talk, you might be hearing some noise outside because we have a culinary fundamentals class happening. I think it's day 2 of training, and there's cooking noises happening right outside the door. So if you hear noises, that's what it is.
Well, that's a fundamental of cooking. Make noise and be eager.
Exactly. I am Leslie Abbey, the Chief Executive Officer of Hot Bread Kitchen. We are a nonprofit organization whose mission is to utilize what we call the vibrant New York City food industry as a catalyst for economic mobility. And we work with women, mostly women of color, immigrants and people of color, to train them for work in the food industry, and we also help to incubate new small food businesses. And we're growing really fast. We served 320 women last year, and this year we're on track to work with more than 400, and next year we're planning to surpass 450. That's it.
Good morning, I'm Liz Neumark. I'm the founder and CEO of Great Performances. We are a catering and hospitality company with very humble roots, planted about 40 years ago. We do all kinds of food service and catering throughout New York City. What I like to share is our refreshed mission statement, which is unleash joy through genuine hospitality. And for me, that just says it all.
Love that. Love the unleash joy. So, Liz, can you share a little bit about the beginnings of Great Performances and what inspired you to start the company?
I'm happy to share. I always tell people if we have 4 or 5 days, I'll tell you the story. It's like my first child. But then we're going to get to you because I am so inspired by everything Hot Bread Kitchen has accomplished.
Thank you.
And you know, interesting, we started in similar ways. We were a waitress service for women. We were all in the arts looking to find our way to success. And I wanted to be Annie Leibovitz. And it was the day of the interview couch in hospitality, and none of us were going to go that direction. Anyhow, we started as a way for women in the arts to have a flexible service schedule in an industry that really did not incorporate women. So 2 things. We morphed and grew into full service, but it also was my great failure in life because here I am, 40-something years later, in hospitality, which I love. And not behind the camera. But I just think about the origins of Hot Bread Kitchen and the strength of women and how women are this nucleus for change. And it's so exemplified in the work you do.
Well, it's amazing to hear, about the beginnings, because I think the fact that we both center our work on supporting women and getting women into places of employment and into places of economic mobility. But also, interestingly, I think we're both centered around diversifying the food industry as well, which is really important. It has traditionally been a place for men, and we know women have lots of talent and ambition and drive, and I'm just excited that we both have that mission and kind of work together actually to accomplish it.
And Gina, I hope you don't mind, in reading up for today, and we do work together, so I know who you are and what you do.
Great Performances is an amazing employer partner of Hot Bread Kitchen, and we just should say that out loud and be very proud about that. And we've hired many of our graduates. We've worked together on events for Hot Bread Kitchen, and honestly, we could not be more thrilled and proud to have Great Performances as a really trusted and amazing partner.
Thank you, and I will return the compliment to you because there are many organizations that claim to train people you really do it and you continue to support them and your folks are great and the success rate, you set us up for success, so you make us look good, so right back to you. But your background, your road to hot bread is so fascinating, through government, through the law. Could you talk about that a little bit? And did you expect to end up here today?
I did not expect to end up here. I feel such privilege and so lucky to be where I am. I absolutely love working for Hot Bread Kitchen and with my colleagues and partners like you. I started my career, I should say first, like many people, my first job was in the food industry, by the way. I, of course, was a waitress in college in upstate New York. But I eventually went to law school, and my first career was with Legal Aid Society, representing youth in family court and then in class action cases. And when you work with youth, you work with a lot of families, and when you work with families, you end up working with a lot of women, because women tend to be leading households and really involved with their kids. So I've always worked with women and with families and children. And from there I went to work for government. I worked for the Administration for Children's Services, so again, in kind of a space with youth and families. But after that, started to, I think, diversify kind of the issues that I was involved in. So I worked in housing and homelessness. I worked in the mental health space. I have overseen a medical clinic. And really, I think what has sort of led me here, and we'll talk about the food creativity part of it, because that was super thrilling and exciting to kind of learn about and to get involved in. But in a lot of ways, what I've learned is how many issues and systems are so intersecting and interconnected. If you work in the child welfare system in family court, you're necessarily talking about economic opportunity, you're talking about housing, you're talking about mental health. People are not siloed into the systems as they exist today. You really need to be a generalist to understand kind of all the different things that folks are addressing. And so, I've worked in all these areas, but economic mobility is really in some ways the underpinning of all of it. And if you can't afford your housing, if you don't really know where the next paycheck is coming from, it's pretty hard to address almost any of those other issues. And also, the interesting thread, I think, through a lot of the work I've done is the power of hope and the importance of hope. And this is not just for members, it's for all of us, right? If we don't believe that something will change, will get better, will be joyous the next day, it makes it really hard to kind of focus on getting anything really done. And so for me, Hot Bread Kitchen is really about the intersectionality of all of the issues that I've always worked with, bringing economic mobility, kind of into the forefront, and very importantly, bringing hope, like back squarely into our members' lives and even our staff's lives and even our employer partners' lives. I think we just bring joy and hope sort of as part of our mission as well. I'm really proud of that.
It's interesting because you look at some of these giant issues and they are big. Healthcare, housing, education, child mobility. If there were 10 of each of us, I don't know that we could impact it. But sometimes I always feel, what can I have impact on?
Absolutely.
A life, a meal, tomorrow, a family, a person. So when you talk about the power of your program, it is very narrow and very granular, but it works. And we have to have hope as well as spreading hope, because without hope, it's a little scary when you think about what everybody's facing.
And I've just had the incredible privilege now to do all of that work through the lens of the food industry, which has been super fun.
It's funny, I always say food is the lens through which I look at the world. And if you look through my camera, you'd see it's either food, little kids, a lot of cats, a lot of food. And it is a great way to look at the world. Yes, and that's what we've chosen to do. And when you talk about your members, I think about people who come to you, the women who come to you are interested already. They have, you're not forcing anybody to pick up a knife and get into the kitchen. It reminds me a little bit of the work we do with the Sylvia Center, which is a nonprofit that we launched that deals maybe with your future members, children, and empowering them around food. And food is such a powerful touch point for people. It's generational, it's nurturing. And I used to say, oh, well, we all eat 3 meals a day, and I no longer say that because we live in a city where food insecurity is a plague, and we should, anyhow, I won't go there. I mean, we can separately. But using that experience and that lens changes lives. It's like art for an artist, dance for a dancer, food for our populations. It opens doors, it empowers them. With our kids in Sylvia Center, they learn about healthy eating. And in my day job in feeding privileged New Yorkers, I'm not worried about anybody's healthy eating. There are so much choices. There's so many choices. But when I think of some of the nonprofit work that we're involved with, thinking about food and healthful outcomes is it's so critical.
Yeah.
We brought in a group of refugee chefs connected, the Eat Off Beats group, and they are housed in our kitchenette. And these
a
are
business that was created by Hotbread Kitchen too.
There you
So
go.
we both
and Jessamine, not Jessamine, I'm thinking.
Manal.
Believe me, yes.
And Manal.
But it is a group of women and refugee chefs, and the recipes are amazing, the flavors, and I think the authenticity is, we're in a moment in the 1% world where everyone is embracing flavors, the global flavors, and the stories behind food. So I think leaning into that is really, really interesting. Some of your graduates are doing, can you share anything?
Yeah.
Where they are?
So we have placed more than 500 women in jobs in our history. And also, we haven't talked about the other side of Hotbread Kitchen, which is incubating these small food businesses, which is our connection to Eat Off Beats and all.
I didn't realize you were incubating them.
Oh, yes. Well, we have some part in sort of the beginnings of more than 250 small food businesses by women in the city, and many of them now have gone on to some success and have storefronts or e-commerce businesses. So that is an area of our work that was always there from the beginning and is actually getting reinvigorated through a bunch of financial support that we've gotten this year, which has been very exciting. I think there's a real interest in the public and the funding community and the corporate community in supporting women of color entrepreneurs. And so that work is just kind of building that up, which is exciting. But the culinary training members who have graduated have gone on to, we have more than 250 partners. So they've gone on to many different companies. One of our biggest partners is Google, Restaurant Associates at Google. And we placed more than 70 women in their cafeterias and have a great relationship with them. And we work with small businesses as well. In fact, last December, during the holidays, some of our small business entrepreneurs hired some of our culinary graduates for seasonal work, which was just an amazing moment to be on both sides of kind of supporting the food industry that way.
Do you hear about the challenges they have as women navigating the business world, banking, access to financial help?
Absolutely. I see how powerful our work is in that area because there just are not enough women business owners. And then on top of that, there's certainly not enough business owners who are women of color. And there's a lot of systemic racism and sexism, which I would like to ask you about.
Will your husband co-sign the law? It's like, hello?
Okay. But again, the women we've been working with are so passionate and so driven, and so it's just really, it's so inspiring to see kind of the obstacles that they've overcome to get where they are. And the businesses that are really growing sort of significantly now that we're very much in touch with right now also just talk about the intergenerational aspect of owning businesses and sort of the impact that they're having on their families, on their children. One business owner in particular that comes to mind is Shelley Flash, who owns Two Girls in a Cook Shop. We had a small business pitch competition last year. She was our winner, which was super exciting. Her business is Jamaican tacos, and she is selling on DoorDash, and she's using a shared commercial kitchen in Brooklyn. But first of all, Shelley Flash is a force to be reckoned with, and she has so much drive and determination, and her food is excellent. As you know, we started our event this year, for 15, exactly, with her Jamaican tacos, and she actually opened our event this year, which was great. But she too has talked, she runs the business with her daughter, and she's talked a lot about how impactful it has been for her family and how important it is. Business ownership unto itself is important. So she's been an exciting mentor even for me.
She was amazing. I mean, she just stunned the room, and her personal power, the power of her taco, was something I will not forget.
I wanted to ask you about your kind of your leadership style and your, did you ever imagine that Great Performances would be as big as it is today, and sort of what do you attribute the growth to, and sort of how do you think of yourself as a leader of a growing and really important organization?
Okay, that's a giant question.
That's a three-part question. Exactly.
And I will tell you, I met someone the other day, and I think he said to me, "Oh my God, I'm so happy to meet you, you're a legend." And I thought, expletive deleted. That is a horrible word, because that just means you're old. And I am not legendary, the company is. And I had no intention of being at this place today. I like the idea of life being a journey. Mm-hmm. And I am an accidental entrepreneur. And I was so seduced by the joy and the challenge of business that I just kept going on for the ride. I have role models in my life around entrepreneurship in my family. If you weren't a lawyer, you were an entrepreneur. So I went the entrepreneurial way. And I don't know that there were that many women role models, but I'm one of three girls, in the middle, of course. There's my brother, and then my parents got it right and had the three of us. And there was never any belief anywhere that I couldn't do anything I wanted to do. And, just went out into the world and followed what was exciting to me. I think a lot of the success and growth comes from within the industry and the shared passion I've had with folks I've worked with over the years. Women, men who just were as excited about being in hospitality, around food, around the experience. And it's funny, I'm in the food business, and you think, oh, are you a foodie? Is it all about food? And I say, no, it's about what happens around the table. And we have a little trademarked saying at GP, we say life happens around food. And that's what sort of got me. And I think you share a gene, because what do I really want to do when I grow up? I want to make the world a better place. And GP gave me that opportunity to try to make the world a better place.
I mean, It is, and you, putting aside the word legend, if you don't want to use that, but I mean, your stamp in so many areas, I think, again, the intersectionality in a lot of ways of the work that you do is just so impressive, and I think folks know of GP as such an amazing company, producing really just gorgeous, gorgeous food and supporting lots of different organizations while doing that. And also, you give back in so many ways.
And maybe that is a difference between being a female accidental entrepreneur, that it was not always about revenue and top line or bottom line, and the influence of having artists and creative people, because I think our success has come from being in the right place at the right time. And it was the start of an industry, we were there early, but we thought outside the box, and we thought about giving back, and we thought about being more creative, and the road to agriculture, and just the timing sometimes works out. So it's truly accidental. And what's not accidental is that every day I wake up and I think, okay, how are we redefining our industry? What are the trends looking at us? What are the challenges? What can we do that's different? What can we do that's totally off the walls that people will think we're nuts? And then everybody will say, I get it, like moving to the South Bronx. And everybody thought I think everybody thought I lost my mind when I said great performances is moving to the South Bronx. And oh my goodness, what an incredible thing that has been for us. So, I mean, don't you feel that happens? You sort of go with your gut and go with your heart, and do women do that more than men? I don't know. There's no studies.
I think that's true, and I think the other thing I've seen in watching you with your team is the amount of agency. You empower folks with agency that I can see, at least, and I think you have just, it's natural in you, but I see, maybe you've been working on this too, I don't know, but I see you both elevating and allowing, really giving space for people and their work to shine. And I think that's really important too. There's big business decisions, and then, as we both know, there's all the folks that we work with that actually have to make some big vision happen, right? And just saying it needs to be so is, doesn't do it. And it's not, first of all, it's not joyous, it's not fun to do that. And so I think I've seen in you kind of the incredible ability to kind of work amongst the team, elevate the team, and inspire the team.
Oh, that's very nice, and thank you. And I learned from the team. But you feel the same. I mean, you've got to be doing that here with your growing businesses, and the idea that there was a time when I probably never been a good micromanager, but you kind of think you want to be, and oh yes, copy me on that, and that's just a fast ticket to being ineffective. And that's interesting. Like with time, you've mellowed. Your kids have gone from little ones where you can control everything to bigger ones where you can control nothing, to even bigger where there's a dialogue. How has that evolved for you, the ability to engage and empower? Yeah.
I think as I've gotten older, as a leader amongst other leaders within organizations, I have really focused in actually on sometimes actively learning through reading and watching and looking at other leaders, how to be more transparent, how to be more communicative, how to listen more. I think those aspects of leadership are really, really important. And I've had some amazing mentors who I've watched, do that, and I've emulated them. But I think as I get older, frankly, whether it's here at work or even at home, I think all of those things sort of allowing kind of the conversation to happen and being more of an active listener is really something I focus on. What has been really amazing at the Women's Forum is I have met so many glass ceiling breakers in events there, and I'm so inspired by their journeys and all of their accomplishments. We actually hosted the holiday party last year here at Hot Bread Kitchen, and I ended up speaking to, it was one of my first events, and I spoke to so many women who were the first in this, the first in that, first to own this company, the first to be in this industry or in a leadership position. And I think for us as newer women foreign members, it's inspiring, and I look forward to learning more about them.
It's an amazing sisterhood. I remember when I joined, which probably somewhere between 15 and 20 years ago, I was sort of like, they want me? I was so surprised. And to see the diversification of industry, and it was really interesting because back then, you had to be a senior woman in your organization. And to be a senior woman in the corporate world meant that you were older because women couldn't climb the corporate ladder. And it was kind of crazy. And now the whole landscape of our membership has really changed because companies have changed and the world has changed. And you see women who are doing amazing things, starting companies, the whole tech world, the whole, what the internet has opened up, the arts world, the cultural world, young women doing, running their own companies. So it's really brought in such a great blend of the old and the new. And I always wonder how this current generation of the 20s and 30s, my kids, your kids are on the cusp of turning 20, how they look at the ceiling breakers and the feminists. Sometimes we ask women, are you a feminist? And they look at me and like, A, what is that? And B, no. But we do stand on these shoulders of amazing, amazing women. And the industry that you represent for the Women's Forum, not only being in the nonprofit world, but in the food world, we are a narrow but mighty segment, and we should think about how we look within our worlds to bring in more of these different voices, to balance the what was really the underpinnings with corporate.
I am actually curious who you would count among your mentors. Well, there may be many of them. But I'm curious who you would list.
Yeah, that's like the restaurant question. Like, where do you look to eat? And I think, for me, the mentorship starts all the way from being a kid and being mentored in goodness and in compassion by my grandmother, both of them. But one in particular, her name was Sylvia. And
Yes. That's her name, Sylvia.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Well, and then my daughter, who I named for my grandmother. But we would go to the supermarket, and not only would she take care of everybody with her gratuities, she would bring them things, and then she would leave 6 packs of beer on the garbage can for the garbage men, and she just understood human connection in a way that most people don't. And then I think about the entrepreneurs in my family, and my dad, who was in the diamond business, and with a handshake, the transaction of tens of thousands of dollars was consummated with a handshake, and understanding the power of the one-on-one relationship and the power of your word and the power of your reputation. I mean, these are very sort of humbling and, to me, fundamental parts of leadership that I grew up in. And that's the beauty of my experience, and I think you feel the same way in life, that mentorship is not, for some people it's really that one person who mentored them. And for me it's just really trying to be open to learning from
Yeah.
everybody and
I
everything.
agree. I mean, it's a genuine curiosity about what anybody in the room brings into that room and brings to the table, I think is true. And I do think that curiosity and that lens on the world comes from somewhere. And so it sounds like, both of us credit our families to a large degree. Why don't we talk about what's in the future? What's in the future? Where do you see what's really the future for great performances, and what are you aspiring to?
So I always say if I had a crystal ball, I would be in another business and probably make a lot of money. And it's so interesting to think about the future against the backdrop of the last few years, because who the heck ever foresaw what happened to the world with the
We
pandemic?
should mention that the world and the food industry, in particular, were very
Small
devastating.
businesses.
I mean, I feel so. It's amazing how Bright Kitchen kind of made us go through those 2 years.
Yes.
The industry was really decimated, so it's been really tough.
It was crazy. I think we're in a vibrant city. New York has some real challenges, but I do not count New York out of it. I think it'll be a real leaning in for us as New Yorkers for the next couple of years. I'm going to assume there's no giant surprises, no giant clouds of smoke coming our way to shut us down, that it feels the economy is stable. And it'll be interesting to look at some of the new challenges, to look at climate change and say, how do we as a company and an industry think about what our role is, what our obligation is, what that does to our businesses, thinking about the voices of the next generation, which are so linked to electronic devices, everything from AI to social media, and how that changes our interaction with fundraising, all the boards I sit on and for you, and to look at how that changes our buyers, our communication. So I've always been bullish on the future and optimistic and excited, because there are also a lot of creative things that we have in the hopper. But it feels like the world is at an interesting, it could be a precipice or a turning point. What about you? How do you look at the future?
I feel like right now the future is really bright, it feels like, for Hot Bread Kitchen. Our vision right now, and we're in the middle of a 3-year strategic plan, is to grow to what we say 1,000 breadwinners by 2024. That's our tagline. And we will be doing some strategic planning sort of for what comes next. I think we're expanding vertically that way by looking at upskilling, and then also geographically we are holding training sessions in commercial kitchens in Brooklyn. We're going to be in the Bronx this fall. Our goal is to expand citywide to different kitchens in all 5 boroughs. And we've been asked about the possibility of maybe beyond New York City, so I think it's time for us to kind of grapple with whether that is really feasible, and I think it's certainly possible. And then on the small business front too, as I mentioned, I think in sort of the face of the pandemic, in the face of the Black Lives Matter movement, there's just been a real surge in interest in supporting business owners who are women of color and business owners who are women and immigrants. And so a number of funders are actually coming to us asking how they can be helpful, and so that area of our work is also growing as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I see some parallels I think about as we expand and grow. The times are changing, people are changing, the world is changing, and this year we've brought in so many younger folks who are new to the industry. Maybe they've been on the periphery of it and they want to come join us. And adding their voices and their insights and their skills to some of the people who've been in the hospitality for 20, 30 plus years is a great marriage. And how we educate them, how they get the experience that I don't know. I mean, the experience starts, of course, when you're a kid and your mother says you serve from the left and clear from the right. And all that's changed, so really inspiring this next generation of operators is fun to think about.
That's great. That's great. So, and thank you for coming to Hot Bread Kitchen. And if you want to learn more about Hot Bread Kitchen, we're on the web at www.hotbreadkitchen.org. Information is there.
It is so great to be here and to always talk about, I think of great performances as my first child. And of course, people can come to our website. We have great recipes. You don't have to hire us, you could just find recipes. You could read about our wonderful farm in upstate New York in Kinderhook, or you can go have a taste of great performances at Dizzy's at Jazz Lincoln Center, or out at the Norm at the Brooklyn Museum. Or if you're planning to marry off a child, or plan a life cycle event, or have a corporate fundraising event like you did. Your party was amazing. But I will say right here that I will never do for anybody what we did for you, and we will only do it for you. It was the most creative dinner, bringing in so many culinary voices.
That was great.
So
I mean, your team did an amazing job. And also, if you hire great performances, you'll be hiring some Hot Bread Kitchens alumni as well, because Great Performances is an employer partner of Hot Bread Kitchens, which we are very, very proud to say.
we are very lucky, and it just goes to the power of workforce development. And as an industry, we have such an opportunity to make an impact. I always think of hospitality as an incredibly robust industry with all kinds of jobs, and over the decades, it's like, I always say it's a backdoor industry. Everybody comes in through a different backdoor. You were a waitress, but you escaped us, but you came back. I worked on the floor for years. Some people come in washing dishes or driving trucks, or, I mean, it's an industry where people can come in at all different levels and grow. So workforce development is so key. Post-pandemic, we really leaned into workforce development programs, of which yours is the most stellar, because everybody who was in our industry left New York.
I mean, we haven't talked about this before, but it's very true. For what's also interesting and just amazing for me being here at Hot Bread is seeing and really embracing the centrality of the food industry and how accessible it is. The vast majority of our members are not working before they come to us at all. And they have a passion for food. But as importantly, they need a first step. They need to gain confidence. They need a first step. They need someone behind them. They need wind behind their sails. And so Hot Bread Kitchen and the food industry does that. They may live the rest of their careers in the food industry. They may go on to something else. But without the food industry, many of us wouldn't have our first jobs. And it's the same for the members that we serve. So I'm really bullish on how important the food industry is, how many different types of jobs there are within it, would you say, and how accessible it is. It's a first step for many people, at least. And so it's so important to support them.
And I always feel there's nothing more rewarding than being part of feeding someone, sharing a meal. Wynton Marsalis at Jazz speaks to our service staff every once in a while. And he said something so powerful. He said, to be of service is such a privilege. And it is. And if you're not into it, don't do it. But if you are into it, it is so rewarding to be that person who brings comfort, or we talk about recipes that are handed down, that flavor, that taste of home, those human connections where in this technologically speedy world are so fundamental and so human. That to me is just one of the strongest touchstones of our industry.
I love that. Thank you so much for coming to Hot Bread Kitchen and for this amazing talk. I've had so much fun talking with you, and sharing information and learning more about you.
Okay.
You're an amazing person.
You are an amazing person, and Leslie for mayor, governor, president. I'm done. Okay.
Thank you,
That's great, and congratulations on what you're building.
And you as
Really
well.
amazing.
Really.
Okay, we're gonna have this little love fest, but this is typical of Women's Forum members who just lean into one another and keep
Absolutely.
supporting us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.